Roughly every 2 weeks for the past 2 years, there's been a new report about ROI and AI. Who's winning, who's losing, which kinds of companies and projects excel, whether the people using AI are geniuses or they're idiots, whether we're all going to be rich or homeless in the next 5 years. Nobody has time to read all of them, except us. And our robots, of course. But yeah, we went through dozens of the top reports, datasets, surveys, and studies from the past few years. Then we compared them with our own facts and findings at Runpoint, having spent the last 2 years building and implementing AI systems inside mid-market businesses. The goal is to give CEOs of $20 to $200 million mid-market companies a clear punch list. What is becoming a no-brainer, what remains a conditional bet, and what still belongs in R&D. You'll notice there's a spoiler in our stated goal. We're already tipping our hand in terms of who we think is best positioned to benefit from the AI revolution. But we'll get to that in a bit. First, the broad picture. AI adoption is here. Individual productivity gains are real. Organizational ROI, and dare I say transformation, remains jagged, unevenly distributed, painful, and generally messy. The adoption numbers can look contradictory because they are usually measuring different people, different jobs, and different definitions. But if you actually walk around these businesses, the reality is pretty obvious. Usage is not universal. Some people use it constantly, some barely touch it, and when you talk to the people who are genuinely good at AI, the productivity gain is not theoretical. It is obvious. They are operating at a different speed. The data supports the direction, even if it does not give us one clean penetration number. Gallup found workplace use more than doubled in 2 years. The St. Louis Fed found use and self-reported time savings still climbing. And controlled studies have found double-digit gains on the right-bounded tasks. So the point is not that AI has reached 100% adoption. It is that the people who know how to use it are already operating at a different speed. Waiting for universal adoption is no longer a serious strategy. AI can be widespread as a tool and still be rare as an operating capability. At the company level, the conversation is weaker. An NBER study found 69% of firms reported some AI use, while 89% reported no productivity impact over the prior 3 years. In McKinsey's late 2025 survey, only about 6% met its definition of an AI high performer. Because these results are broad and self-reported, the useful conclusion is narrower. Access and activity can spread much faster than measurable output. Our explanation comes down to 4 practical problems. First, time saved does not automatically become productivity. If 10 people each save 5 hours a week at $60 an hour, the spreadsheet produces $156,000 of annual capacity. If the company changes nothing about output, cost, roles, or demand, the cashable value may still be 0. The hours are useful. They are inventory. Management has to convert them into more accepted output, lowering spending, faster revenue, or a redesigned role. Second, the applications underneath the company are not ready. Grant Thornton found that 70% of surveyed companies between $100 million and $1 billion said at least half of their core applications were not AI ready. You can place a very capable chatbot on top of old software. But if the workflow still depends on disconnected data, undocumented exceptions, manual permissions, general rented software, the chatbot mostly gives you a faster way to reach the existing bottleneck. 3. AI workflows need deterministic rails. Use AI where ambiguity creates value. Reading languages, classifying a messy request, drafting a response, etc. Deterministic code, if this then that workflows, are much less likely to create bottlenecks. They can happen, of course, but when they do, engineers know how to fix them. The biggest mistake we see in scaling AI solutions is the belief that if a single frontier model can perform a task for an individual, it can do that at scale for entire teams. Fourth, companies keep mistaking model choice and model provider for strategy. The model matters, of course, the cost, the latency, what they're good at, etc. But it is rarely the durable source of advantage because your competitor can rent the exact same one. The compounding asset is the layer around the model. Your data, definitions, operating knowledge, workflow logic, permissions, code, evaluations, and feedback history. We call that the alpha layer. Literally all the stuff that gives you an edge against your competitors now and in the future. Models will change, prices will change, the leaderboard will change. Your alpha layer should only evolve. But some companies really are crushing it. We know because we're lucky enough to work with some of them. So treat this as field experience rather than a conclusion from the public research. The strongest implementations we see have enough operating volume in software spend for the economics to matter, plus a CEO or process owner who can change a role, remove a system, and keep the project from dying in committee. That is why we think of the $20 million to $200 million market as the Goldilocks zone. The research does not yet prove this, we'll be honest, but that's because it's a bet on the future, not on the past. These are organizations with enough complexity to create value, with few enough layers to make decisions. The trade-off is thinner IT and data capacity. These companies can move quickly, but they cannot afford a fragile science project. So let's stop averaging unlike things. There are 3 different portfolios hiding inside AI. First, you have your solved problems, repeatable patterns you should implement when they make sense for your business. These become table stakes. Second, you've got conditional bets, capabilities that work, but whose ROI depends on your economics, execution, data, and willingness to change. This is where the strategic advantage lives. Third are exploratory tasks and work, bets that could fundamentally change the business, but do not yet have a repeatable playbook. Fund those like R&D, with an owner, a learning goal, and a stop condition. Poor ERP, CRM, generally SaaS replacement shows why this distinction matters. This one reflects a change in our own position. By early 2026, the ability to build a modern core system has become increasingly solved. Whether replacing your particular system produces attractive ROI is still conditional. Migration, ownership, organizational change, and 3-year economics did not. We have more on that elsewhere. Sam's done a lot of videos on the economics of SaaS replacement. Check out our website for how we think about that. For now, the important thing is that technically buildable and economically correct for your company are different claims. All right, so where does that leave you? Your next move is not an AI strategy deck. It is a portfolio decision. Adopt the solved, choose the conditional bet that deserves a business case, and put a fence around the moonshots. Before your next planning or budget meeting, put every AI initiative into one of those 3 columns. If it is solved, implement the specific best practice. If it is conditional, underwrite it. Baseline, accepted outcome, owner, and stop condition. If it is exploratory, fund it like R&D and be honest about what you are buying, learning, not ROI. Corpus of research can tell us where the evidence is repeatable. It cannot tell you which conditional bet matters inside your company. That is the actual CEO's job now. We have opinions, you need to form yours. Whatever you choose, rent the models, own the workflows, and measure the outcomes. We put the report in the full portfolio below. Use it to build your own map.